At 6:14 a.m., over the frost-bitten plains east of Kharkiv, silence broke. From beyond the horizon, a swarm of Ukrainian drones rose like a dark tide against the pale sky. Below, spread across open ground, 187 North Korean tanks sat in armored formation, engines low, turrets scanning, waiting for orders to advance. But the tanks were already being watched. Each drone carried eyes sharper than steel, transmitters locked to command vans miles away, and payloads designed to cripple the heaviest armor. The first warning wasn't an explosion. It was the hum, dozens of rotors buzzing in unison as shadows crossed the fields. Then, without ceremony, the strike began. Fire blossomed across the lead column. A single tank vanished in a plume of black smoke, and then another and another. Within seconds, the calm of dawn shattered into chaos. Don't take your eyes off the screen, because what happened next would decide not just the fate of these tanks, but the future of armored warfare itself. The horizon shimmered with motion. What at first looked like birds breaking from the tree line revealed itself as a layered assault. Ukrainian Bayraktar TB2s soaring high, loitering munitions circling low, and clusters of quadcopters moving in tight packs like hunters scenting prey. Each platform had a role. The TB2s mapped the grid, feeding live coordinates into encrypted command vans 10 miles back. Loitering drones shaped like winged daggers prowled overhead, waiting for targets to expose themselves. And the smaller quadcopters, fast, nimble, almost disposable, carried shaped charges no bigger than a fist, yet lethal enough to pierce tank armor. Below, the North Korean armored spearheads clustered in neat rows, 187 tanks stretching across open ground. Engines coughed. Turrets elevated. Crew hatches snapped shut. They had expected a fight, but not from above. The drones struck first. A fuel truck lit up in a white-hot detonation. Two command tanks at the front of the column were engulfed in smoke as precision charges slammed into their turrets. Fire rolled across the staging ground, and panic rippled through the formation. North Korean crews scrambled. Anti-air gunners swung their barrels skyward, tracing the swarm with streams of red tracers. But the drones adapted. Frequencies shifted. Flight paths bent low through the tree line, masking signatures against the terrain. Within minutes, over 40 armored vehicles were either disabled or burning. The battlefield wasn't just lit by explosions, it buzzed, roared and crackled with electronic interference, as the swarm forced the entire armored column into defensive chaos. And this was only the first wave. The armored column buckled under the weight of the assault. North Korean gunners fired blindly into the sky, barrels glowing red as streams of tracers arced upward. Surface-to-air launchers spat missiles in frantic volleys, but the swarm refused to break. Ukrainian drones adapted mid-flight, shifting frequencies, altering altitude, and slipping through gaps in the radar net. Every move was data-driven. Operators hunched in mobile command vans, eyes locked on flickering screens, steering the storm with surgical precision. The tanks tried to answer. Turrets spun, cannons thundered, and the earth shook as shells tore through fields and tree lines. But for every blast, another drone descended, dipping low, weaving through smoke and striking steel with pinpoint violence. A T-72 erupted in a fireball, its ammunition cooking off in a chain reaction that set two neighboring tanks ablaze. Fuel trucks burst like torches, sending black pillars skyward. Crews bailed out under the shadow of the swarm, some fleeing, others gunned down by precision fire. Within the first 15 minutes, nearly 50 tanks were disabled, smoldering husks marking the ground like broken chess pieces. The formation dissolved into fragments, no longer an armored spearhead, but scattered survivors clawing for survival. Then came the invisible blow. Ukrainian electronic warfare units blanketed the battle space with distortion. Tank radios went silent. Targeting computers flickered and failed. Crews waved flags from hatches, resorting to flares and hand signals in a desperate attempt to coordinate under fire. The battlefield was no longer an arena of heavy armor. It was a kill zone, where drones dictated tempo, and tanks, once kings of the battlefield, were reduced to prey under a buzzing, relentless sky. But even under the swarm's shadow, the tanks did not fold. North Korean commanders ordered the remnants of their formation forward. Steel tracks grinding, barrels elevated, firing not at visible targets, but at the shadows above. The armored line lurched into motion, shells tearing through farmland, detonating empty barns and ridgelines where drones had once hovered. It was chaos masked as defiance. The survivors clawed forward, using smoke canisters and suppressive barrages to carve breathing space for regrouping units. Infantry dismounted from troop carriers, forming scattered fire teams, each clutching man-pads and shoulder-launched missiles, hunting for the faint hum of propellers overhead. Ukraine answered not with retreat, but coordination. Infantry squads and unmanned ground vehicles advanced under the drone cover, weaving through irrigation ditches and shattered hedgerows. Four-legged robots scouted ahead, sniffing out mines and thermal signatures hidden along the advance routes. Above them, drone operators synchronized with artillery crews. Real-time feeds streamed from quadcopters circling just 100 feet above the tanks. Coordinates pulsed across encrypted nets, and then HIMARS spoke. From concealed positions miles west, GPS-guided rockets streaked through the morning haze, striking with surgical precision. Impact zones erupted into plumes of dirt and steel, shattering regrouping clusters of armor before they could form a countercharge. The battlefield became a web of moving parts, drones in the sky, robots on the ground, artillery in the distance, all tightening around the armored column like a vice. Every North Korean step forward came at a cost measured in fire, fragments and lost machines. And still, the swarm watched from above. The counterattack didn't stop the storm, it only fed it. Frustrated by mounting losses, North Korean command escalated. Heavy artillery batteries rolled into position, their 152mm barrels pounding the fields in overlapping barrages. The earth convulsed as craters tore open roads, irrigation lines, and shattered tree lines where drones had once nested. Then came the missiles. Short-range ballistic systems, hidden deeper in the rear, launched in salvos. Their contrails split the sky, each warhead hunting the electronic signatures guiding Ukraine's swarm. The air turned violent, columns of flame chasing shadows, but Ukraine was ready. From higher altitudes, Bayraktar TB2s shifted to evasive orbits, while smaller quadcopters dove low into ground clutter, masking themselves against radar. Electronic warfare vans pulsed bursts of interference, fracturing missile locks at the last possible second. Some struck decoys. Others veered harmlessly into open fields. Overhead, a patrol of Ukrainian MiG-29s streaked across the battle space at treetop level. They weren't just hunters. They were guardians. When North Korean aircraft attempted to break through and shield the tank column, the MiGs struck fast. Radar locks, missile trails, and then silence. The enemy jets never reached the battlefield. Below, the chaos was absolute. Flames rose from wrecked armor. Smoke hung low over the fields. Drones circled like predators, diving in coordinated waves, forcing tank crews to abandon steel giants that had once seemed invincible. The battlefield was no longer a clash of equals. It had become a storm of fire and steel, where survival hinged not on power, but on adaptation. By the 7th minute, the battlefield had transformed into a graveyard of steel. Of the 187 tanks that rolled in at dawn, nearly 120 now sat crippled, smoking husks scattered across broken farmland. But the strike wasn't finished. The swarm shifted its focus. Drones that had hunted armor now retasked toward artillery, command vehicles, and supply trucks tucked behind the lines. One by one, convoys erupted in fireballs, ammunition trucks vanishing in violent blooms that lit the horizon. Each explosion didn't just destroy equipment, it unraveled coordination. Ukrainian infantry pressed the moment. Moving in pairs along irrigation ditches and shattered culverts, they advanced cautiously under drone cover, marking safe lanes with infrared strobes. Robot scouts crawled ahead, their sensors mapping out mines and heat signatures, feeding back into the command net. Every movement was measured, synchronized, designed to keep the pressure constant. But amid the destruction, moments of humanity cut through. A Ukrainian fire team risked everything to pull 2 wounded tank crewmen from a burning wreck, North Korean uniforms scorched, faces blackened with soot. They were dragged behind cover and passed to medics, treated alongside Ukrainian casualties. On this field, survival outweighed allegiance. By 8-0, the tempo had shifted decisively. The armored push had collapsed into fragments. Ukrainian drones still prowled overhead, artillery still whispered from the tree lines, and infantry still tightened the noose. What had begun as a show of armored might ended as a testament to endurance, coordination, and adaptation. The turning point had come, not in a single explosion, but in the steady breaking of steel under a sky owned by machines. As the smoke thinned and the echoes of battle faded, the landscape told its own story. Fields once lined with steel giants now lay littered with twisted wrecks, their turrets blown clear, their tracks buried in scorched soil. The ground was no longer a battlefield, it was a graveyard, but what lingered wasn't just the image of destruction. It was the lesson. The war had shifted once more, not by sheer firepower, but by adaptation, speed, and innovation. The drones had rewritten the playbook, turning armored might into vulnerable targets, proving that even the heaviest war machines could be humbled by swarms the size of birds. For Ukraine, this moment wasn't just survival, it was proof. Proof that smaller forces, armed with ingenuity and will, could claw victories out of impossible odds. For their enemies, it was a warning. Massed armor, without control of the sky, was no longer an unstoppable hammer. It was a liability. And yet, beneath the tactics and the firepower, the human cost remained. Each destroyed tank carried men inside. Each crater meant lives cut short, families left waiting for news that would never come. War is never only about machines, it is about the people consumed by them. As night fell, silence returned to the fields. The last drones circled back to their nests. Medics worked under dim red light, soldiers dug in for the next wave, and the dead lay where they fell, both sides, indistinguishable in the dark. History will remember this clash not just for the scale of destruction, but for the turning of a page. The age of drones had arrived, silent, relentless, rewriting how wars are fought and how they are survived. The battlefield had spoken, and the world was listening.